out there?
India time completely. Enjoying the rain.
Oh, good.
Maya, me, Sir Dipti Vilas and Abhishek ji and Harmeet, we are also based in Delhi NCR. And one of these days,
Okay.
let's catch up. I'll coordinate with you. Let's say
Definitely.
either over the weekend or next week. Yeah, we'll do that.
I'll be glad. I'm mainly in Delhi for work. I mean, I'm going to be for a conference in 2 days, but I'll be glad to also meet in person if we.
Okay. Which
we're getting into-
which part of Gurgaon are you there?
I'm next to Galleria, so closer to
Next to
South
Delhi.
Delhi.
Oh, phase 5.
I know. Face
Yeah.
five.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Great.
So Maya, would you like to set the context that we were just discussing before you entered that the AI, the workplace, some of the value statements that we know. One is predictive maintenance that we have come to know apart from generative AI. So predictive maintenance, supply chain, and Sir was just hinting that the traders have also started using AI. As traders, I mean the share brokers or the insurance agents and all. So that's where it comes in. And generally, as far as the workplaces are concerned, Abhijit had something on his mind that in the HR workforce and all, how should we redefine it once the AI has made its mark? And we were just giving an example that so many job losses are happening. It's real actually in Delhi and in Indian states. You can actually feel the let's say the concern that's happening. Why? Because there's a lot of repetitive tasks which have been overpopulated in companies. For example, writing job descriptions, for example, in HR for interviews, writing role descriptions, or coming out with advertising copy or analyzing reports. We was also just discussing that so many apps are there who added a lot of real value to online meetings as well. We have an annotation tool, we have minutes of meeting, we have analytics, we also have action things. So what are your views generally? How has AI, let's say, made its mark or permeated into the workplace? Opening remarks.
Definitely. So it's again a great topic, and I think also in a great alliance to yesterday's session that I feel that again we are redefining a lot of the, I would say, some of the core principles relating to the workforce. I would say that specifically in India, we are currently working a bit more on developing AI literacy programs for factory workers across the country. It's something that we're doing in collaboration with MIT and SEMCA, but mainly out of the reason that we are seeing bigger cuts of employees, and we are seeing that across the value chain, specifically in factories, the ability of AI to replace certain functions increases significantly. I will address, of course, the answer that you've mentioned of Abhijit related to recruitment processes and HR. Outside of India, I would say that the saturation of AI has been quite substantial when it comes to recruitment. Specifically from the UK, US perspectives, we are seeing almost, I would say almost all recruitment processes for medium to big size companies use AI to a certain extent. And I would say that in India, the reasons that we are not seeing this fully are also part of the understanding that I would say some of the regulatory obstacles that again, in the UK and the US, some of the incentives to increase AI did not take into consideration the fact that we will see much more cuts of employees. Some of the concerns that we are discussing, I would say much more in India due to the sensitivity. But in HR, so clearly there is almost, I would say, most of the functions of recruitments and requisitions can today be empowered by AI. This, of course, leads to the fact that also recruiters are not the happiest with the change of AI kind of taking some of the functions that they were used to do. But COVID-19 kind of gave the legitimization to this. So it's almost becoming an AI assistant to recruiters today. But so when we're thinking of the future of work, I would say that it's slightly broader than the recruitment space, because we're talking about, first of all, the candidate and the applicant experience. As we spoke yesterday, what are the skills that we need to make sure that we are aligned and we won't be cut or fired when AI kind of invades to our life, but also, of course, to the recruiters and the companies trying to make sure that they are getting the right people to the jobs that can perform it. And I would say that the bigger balance is, of course, making sure that we have the right benefits and the financial efficiency required to hire people. So, and I would say specifically for factory workers and for many other disciplines, whenever we're seeing the more repetitive chain of actions, predictive maintenance is clearly one, and it's a pretty core and substantial one, but predictive maintenance is everywhere. I would say almost also here when I'm working on waste management, so I would say in the climate space, we're seeing much more headlines about AI being a strong part of it. But the problem comes that we need to see which professions and which traditional skills we are not putting behind. So part of, I would say, the discussion that I hope we can lead today would be to see again how we are still able to protect some professions. And even if some profession needs to be upgraded in a way, we need to see what empowerment and what new trainings we are giving to existing employees to make sure that they are surviving the new generation of workforce. Now, the cuts, I would say, can be out of different reasons. They can be cross-generational for people who are not as used to using technology. They can be out of again, different socioeconomic reasons of people that are just, again, were not exposed to technology from different reasons. But the fact is that today, many people are at risk of losing their jobs if they are not well adapted to technology. And there comes the responsibility, I would say, of this kind of discussions and generally of regulators and policymakers on trying to see how we can empower employees, each in a different discipline, whether it's in predictive maintenance, whether it's in recruitment, whether it's in climate, how we can empower enough employees and provide them the right skills to make sure that they are well adapted and survive this kind of evolution of workforce that AI transformed, which I think is positive in the overall. But there are a lot of fears, I would say, of some of the workers that I get to interact with here, thinking that they're not as valuable, perhaps, in the future. So there is a responsibility for us to see how we can empower them across the industries. So hope that this kind of sets the debate, and I hope that we can address them. And if they're, I'm looking forward to hear the other insights of the speakers
Thanks,
on
Maya.
this topic.
Thanks, Maya. You've actually hit the nail of the head. We really need the upskilling and the awareness and the education to be in place. So I'll just suggest something. While we were reaching out to people and taking their inputs on AI, how AI is coming at and making a dent at the workplace, we reached out to quite a few pharma people. While the repetitive tasks and the concern in the people's mind are that AI might take their jobs and they're not valuable enough, as Maya alluded to. So, the from the perspective of policy and from the perspective of governance, the government side, there is a definite push to have AI make a mark in the real tangible innovation. And here I allude in the pharma sector to drug discovery, to new innovations. But there's a lot of hesitancy. While it's for the first time, I believe I might be sharing this from the government and policy side. They are proactive. They want the companies and organizations to go to this side of the story and bring in innovation using AI, emerging technologies, and think about drug discoveries. The hesitancy that I have found, I may be wrong, but this is where I want to rack your brains on this, that the hesitancy is from the organization side to use tech for innovation. What are your views of this? Thanks, Pamela, for joining. We can't see you. If you can say hi to us.
IP and competitor advantage. IP का कुछ है?
So, I think Pamela can't hear us. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm here. Let me put my camera on in a second.
Thanks, Pamela. Yeah.
Like registered IP for the state.
So,
Yeah, as I was just trying to look at this whole issue from which professions and what contexts AI is more sort of profitable, or it makes sense. That is where it will be adopted fastest. For example, repetitive tasks in workshops, where it has been shown that the number of accidents, etc., happening are reduced when AI is used rather than the human element is there. Similarly, not all jobs are amenable to AI. Those
That's
which
why
are
we will have to look at it. DD mein
repetitive, they are highly vulnerable to AI attack. Otherwise, moderate and low. Wherever judgment is there, human judgment is to be used, then the AI penetration is still quite low. But I'm more worried about not just efficiencies in tasks. Some of them, of course, like remote working, 100% it can be brought in under AI sort of management. But wherever there is personal sort of service to be performed, like a nurse or a driver, I think it's presently, unless of course automatic cars come in, which they can navigate their own. That's a different matter. Wherever personal attention is required, beauticians, for example, doctors, I think there are some professions where it can be used to some extent, but it can't penetrate beyond the point. And as it stands now, 20% of the work only can be brought under 100% AI management. 40 is moderate, and I think around 35-40 is, as of now, is still not vulnerable to AI. As and when the experience with AI in other sectors is understood and felt and benefits are reaped, then I think it will go higher and higher in the scale. But I'm more worried about the social aspects of AI, because AI rules, AI conditionalities, etc., are guided by a certain type of human being, a certain class of human being who thinks in a particular way, whose orientations are totally different. Therefore, there may be scope for social surveillance and socially fitting everyone to a uniform category. I think that is something which can be used or misused also. If in case they're used for the welfare of such vulnerable sections, yes. Otherwise, I think there will be scope for social manipulation. So, socioeconomic inequalities are more likely to be to augment and to.
browser na? Can use that Git for
This I think this is where we stand as of now. But there will be a tendency to adopt AI more and more, because everyone wants to get efficiencies, everyone wants to maximize their profits. Of course, I think Aman pointed out earlier that just the stock brokers use it today maximum, because if they are able to predict with 95% accuracy that a stock will go up or down, they are bound to make profits. And of course, if AI is fully correct all the time, it's a very good thing going for this type of guys. So at this stage, I will stop, and we'll see how the discussion goes.
Thanks, sir. And since Pamela has joined, I'll actually stretch the insight that you gave regarding stock. So if AI is used for, let's say, predicting the health of a stock, it can also potentially, in some hands, also give us an inkling of how the company is faring, what are their future plans, and would it touch a thin line of, let's say, stretching the fabric further towards insider trading? Let's get Pamela in. Pamela, you want to have a go at that?
I'm going to join from my computer, so give me a couple of minutes. I'm just going to forward this to my computer and join. But you can continue. I'll need a couple of minutes to join.
Okay.
No worries, Pamela. We'll continue. Maya, want to or Abhijit on the specific point of it going into the thin area of insider trading if we stretch the fabric too much.
Yes, I mean, it kind of is impacting on those lines, and I feel, the way the data is being crunched and the way you are able to process the information and you are able to put various lenses across it, So what is happening is some part of that is always available for people to for people who wouldn't like to use it in the right way. Where the large part of it is there is going to help people. So that is where this is how I kind of perceive this, and not only in the realms of stock market and all of that, but also the way you are looking at this whole displacement of the labor market or the displacement of labor that is happening all around us. The way this the way it is impacting the kind of skills that we need and the kind of mindset that we need, all of that is also getting impacted with with this kind of with the way AI is perceiving into uh, the workforce area. So
Abhijit, I liked exactly what you said, but I want to pick everyone's brain on this, on a phrase that you used.
okay,
Who decides the right hands?
yeah. I mean, can you just play that back? I kind of did not get it completely.
You said that in the right hands, it has potential to do ABC, let's say that, right?
Hmm,
So I'm
hmm.
saying, who decides the right hands?
No, I mean, the problem is no one does it, right? It is the system in which we are. And the guys who decide it are the guys who have more access, more power, and more money, right? Why do you feel so many governments are bending down to so many powerful IT companies? Today, you see Facebook is the continent in itself. Twitter has got another big global giant. I mean, and the way they are penetrating into our lives, whether it's Netflix or whether it is all our social media platforms. So I think they get to decide and they get to do a lot of things which are not really not really helping solving the larger cause, and they're not really solving the real problems that we are facing today. So that's my view, and I would love to hear from from Maya or from your team as to from international other countries who is how is it more of a lobbying effort, or it is more of the large? I mean, I have a feeling that the large IT companies are kind of doing a lot. You see, 80% of contracts in India are driven by Deloitte, or they are driven by PwC, or all of these big consulting firms, and most of them are driven with some agenda as well, right? So, how do you ensure that the 6 lakh villages, the last mile of this country, really get benefited? They really get the power of AI. So, I mean, I kind of I don't have an answer, Raman. So would love to know from Maya what's her view.
No, I'll at this stage, before we come back to you, Maya. Hello, Pamela. Can you hear
Hello,
us loud and clear? Pamela,
I can hear you.
I know you doing something, and you gave us a case study the other day of the Singapore, how Singapore is doing a entire campaign around trusted and responsible AI. So while Abhijit was speaking, he used a phrase that in the right hands, AI has potential to do a lot of value add at the workforce. And there are certain examples that we were discussing around among us, that let's say in the trading space, in the insurance space, in the stock space. So first question to you, point blank, since you're from Trusted AI, who decides the right hands? And who gets to decide what's good and bad, and how do we jump over the gray area? For example, when does it, for example, I'm just thinking aloud, when does it become insider trading, and when does it become predictive analysis? So where does AI as a technology step in? What are your views on this? uh, uh, just 2 lines on your introduction first. The others are meeting you for the first time.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Pamela Gupta. I've been focused on how to bring the value and harness the potential of AI for the last 5 years, just focused on trustworthy AI. And I've been in the field of AI for over 20 years. So yes, I think there is absolutely a lot of value we can tap into, but we have to be extremely cautious as we approach this highly impactful technology. Now, you can read more of my bio on LinkedIn.
So I won't go more into that. I do host a podcast series it's a thought leadership series on the same subject of how to use trustworthy AI to de-risk the adoption of AI, because there is no area right now which is not pervasively impacted and there's adoption of AI in, right? Whether it's legal, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's finance, healthcare, farming, agriculture, GPS. I mean, we are using satellite imagery for farming purposes. So there is, it's everywhere, right? It's really important that we look at it from each sector by sector, context by context. If we want to see what the risk could be, could it be from bias? Could it be from privacy, from security? There are 8 essential pillars of trustworthiness I had defined 4 years ago. And that includes security, it includes privacy, transparency. Are you using AI when you are using, creating a product? Are you doing a campaign, for example, publicity campaign or a marketing campaign? So it's Amanji, you asked such a broad question. I don't know where to start besides the trustworthiness. So I would just say one thing before I move into directly answering your question, that in order to get the value, we have to go into it with eyes wide open. All right. And there are 2 types of AI, as we know, right? There's predictive AI, which is looking at a correlation between an immense veracity of data points, millions of billions of data points that we as humans cannot put that kind of correlation together. So that's the predictive part that I'm talking about. And then there's the chat GPT and the generative AI and large language models that we are talking about. How to harness that value. I have thoughts on both. I won't go too much into it, but you had also asked about Singapore's initiatives around
Yeah.
this. So as a government, officially what they have done is they have a couple of initiatives. Now they are a smaller country, so they can have, a different kind of approach, which makes it feasible for them. But there is one called the Singapore Verify framework, which is a way to scan your models and identify if they are aligned to principles of transparency or trustworthiness. Okay. And depending on what your use cases are, then that's what you would be able to create a report on. We actually are partners with them for being able to run these kind of analysis on your implementations. Okay. But I can, if you want, I can send you the information on Singapore's initiative on that trustworthiness. And they
Sure.
recently created, yeah, thank you. So, and recently they created a similar framework for generative AI, how to create a sandbox, how to validate for, and verify. That's one. The other one that we had talked about also was their onboarding. It's called AI for SME program, and that's for onboarding companies and matching them with providers, with AI providers. So that's I think it's a very structured way. It's very nascent, so it's still forming, but it's definitely a very structured way of approaching your business community as it's adopting AI to verify what is your maturity level, what is your objective, and then to match it with either training or vendors who are providing services and products. So now I'm not sure which ones of your answers are still unanswered, but I will stop here so I can hear from the other esteemed panelists as well.
Oh, thanks, Pamela. Yes, you've given us food for thought, and I actually wanted everyone to know that the initiatives around the globe are happening. And ladies and gentlemen, March, we have invited Pamela to be here. with us on the 8th March conclave, CXO conclave. She'll be with us. And we'll be taking a couple of initiatives that we are now designing through these roundtables. We are taking the input from everyone, we are compiling them. And one of the major areas of concern for everyone, while all of us agree that awareness and education has to be the pillar on which AI would stand the test of time, but India being a large population country, uh, and so many, you can never underestimate the ingenuity of people and data. As Abhishek, who will speak next, he is always telling us that data is cheap in India, and people have access to a lot of internet, and they get trained quickly. They are all self learners. We've got a lot of innovation that we call jugaad here in India, which is the rustic regional intelligence that actually works for impact in their zone of influence. And that's where AI will be crossing the thin line, as I always say. I was hinting earlier to Sir. Uh, Sir comes from the governance background. He's been a bureaucrat all his life. He's worked with the government. He's been the additional secretary and also with the Ministry of Home. And so he can give us the full leeway on how the governance thinks. So regulations, and where does the regulator think they are into the emerging tech? How does it go forward? So in the overall sense, sir, now you heard few of us speak. Any new thoughts? Then this is where the regulator should step in. How do we, let's say, navigate the journey?
Presently, of course, the government is aware of what is going on. I think they have set up internal groups to discuss this. I think some discussions have already taken place. But the point really remains is what is the type of regulation and what is the extent of regulation? That is going to become a very challenging task. How do we know that one AI implementation will lead to consequence X, Y, or Z? So basically, it is, I think, watch what other leaders are doing. I think that would be the ultimate. Although some groups have been made to study this subject, I don't
Sir,
think
I'll
much.
interject you here. Yesterday, we discussed that there are apps available in small segments in Delhi. For example, in Rohini, we have access to an app which allows children to do their homework from class 5th to 10th, and teachers are actually promoting it. So there's a homegrown apps. Now, I've come to know today when I was discussing with everyone that we are scheduling a roundtable, and this is a point that we're going to discuss, and it might touch upon the regulatory policy, trusted, responsible, and how do we navigate the journey. And they've told us that there are apps out there, and which are aimed at filing PILs and disrupting the patent regime, giving you new ideas every day. And so this is where does it lead to, and how do we harness it in the right direction? We have to channelize the energies actually.
Yeah, I think that's what you're saying. Absolutely correct. That wherever there's an opportunity, the jugaadis will get in. They will do jugaad. We had those yeah, fast guidebooks earlier. Or the textbook guidebooks are doing this job. Now they're only mechanized. That's all. I mean, the only thing is they save more time now, and such things are bound to happen to a fringe of the users. And of course, there's better things to regulate than this. It stands low on government priority at this point of time. And once some threats are seen or felt, I think then the government will get serious on this job. As of now, it's only the thinking sort of zone. That's what I would say at this point of time.
So even the government has said that AI is the biggest catalyst of the new cybercrime cases that we are seeing and the new frauds that are happening. Yes, Pamela, you raised your hand. Sorry.
You're
I want
unmuted.
to mute. I think it's really interesting about these the Jugaad apps, and really the time is really to be proactive and not let it slide by. You know, when it comes to whether it's a fun app or not, who makes that decision? To your earlier point, and what is right, what is wrong, can we should we be looking at morality or should we be looking at what is responsible, right? So a very proactive way of, and this is at a regulatory level, which is at a government level. I've done a comparison of all the regulations that are out there internationally, whether it's China, whether it's EU AI Act, right? What the US is proposing in US has a lot of, I would say, regulatory um, dialogue, but not too many regulations. However, but there are very forms of stance that are appearing. Okay. In fact, Amanji, I'm happy to send you a white paper I done on governance, AI governance, and what do we need for this new era, which is very different governance than existing governance paradigms that we have, and what do we need to watch out for. But at a proactive level, I feel it's really important to differentiate and have a level of a risk-based assessment of the Jugaad apps are fine if they're in a low-risk area, right? If they don't impact something which can be maybe harmful emotionally or physically, you know, or what are the lines we draw? That would be, of course, on the end of the government or the society or organization, business organization that's rolling it out, right? So this should not be discretionary, user discretion based, right? As to what is a fun app and what is become a not so fun app, right? That's a very non-technical way of putting it. But my whole premise is what the EU AI Act has done is taken a risk-based approach to it, and that certainly is worth watching for. And also, China, they have 3 laws that comes to AI. I think the whole world should really be taking a look at what they are and what the implications are and what the adaptability might be to a democratic country, right? So I just wanted to mention that.
Thanks,
I
Maya.
can't go into all
Yes,
of them.
yeah. Thanks, Pamela. Yes, Maya. Yeah.
Just adding to the very insightful things of Pamela and the other panelists. I feel that in many ways the regulation is kind of waited for the new version of Cambridge Analytica to appear. Disinformation policies kind of had their boost after this happened. Also now I think that interestingly enough, I feel that the discussions on deepfake kind of arise again in the US after Taylor Swift has complained that her deepfake videos are too problematic. And I think that in some ways the agenda for the regulations against the implications of AI requires very negative, and sometimes again it's not always Cambridge Analytica that kind of forces these debates. But this intersection between, again, having what up until now could have been pretty innocent applications, but today with AI, the use cases are become much more problematic. We need to understand, first of all, that again, it's similar to cybersecurity and hacking. As much as we develop, we also need to see the defensive mechanisms. But hopefully, I think that what we should kind of be able to discuss is about policy prototyping. What could be the implications of the Cambridge Analytica in EdTech? What happens when the implications of a certain app reach to a certain point, rather than waiting for this to happen? I feel that today, again, as Pamela mentioned, I feel that there is a kind of a stagnation when it comes to the discussions on AI regulation. First of all, in terms of the focus has been mainly to critical infrastructures, disinformation, deepfake, everything related to that, electoral processes, AI. But these are, of course, pretty sometimes controversial in terms of the outputs, because AI can be very preventive if we're regulating it in a certain way. But certain fields like education, employment are harmed because of this, because the regulatory focus is going into certain topics. So I guess that in my view, the regulatory efforts, and I'm speaking perhaps a bit more outside of India, but I guess also specifically to the region, we should see how we are advancing parallelly regulatory efforts on the responsible practices of AI in employment, in education, and not necessarily reaching consensus in the more urgent topics, because of course they kind of, I would say, in my view, delay certain outputs and perhaps more positive advancements. And then again, I hope that we would not have to wait to a very negative affair to happen somewhere in the world, so that we'll be actually be able to advance a bit more with ATAC policies and future of work, because currently, I guess it does feel that like it's being highly delayed. So yeah, that's my take on this.
Thanks, Maya. I think I saw Abhishek, you smiling that Cambridge Analytica was mentioned, and we have a pollster among us. He's been a pollster and he's a data analyst, data engineer by profession. So Abhishek brings to the table more than 2 decades of experience in this. Abhishek, your first thoughts first.
Thanks, Amanji. Am I audible?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. The first thing is regulation of AI and the use of AI in workforce. So I am presenting some basic facts and figures. First of all, that India is a service-based economy, and over 20 million Indian population livelihood depend upon these service-based industry-related work. So the use of generative AI and the all type of use cases for these generative AI tools in the field of these service industry sectors. Particularly, I'm talking about the IT industry, software development, and public relations, and media, and all type of consulting, and many other industry, as well as integration of AI with robotics and metaverse can do almost all type of work. But it will take a little bit time. I can say that in next 3 to 5 years, we will be able to see the full impact of AI in our Indian market and in our Indian society. The biggest advantage and drawback both with India is that India population is very high. India is number one most populated state all over in all world. So the population and service-based economy, and the third fact is that as we all know that only 1% of all people, hardly 1%, are basically creative. Rest 99% are doing these repetitive kind of job. So in the age of AI, these 99% people's work and jobs are in danger actually. So yesterday I was watching one robo labor. So that robo labor was cutting these stables from field in a very quick pace. So there are n number of use cases and where AI and other emerging technologies and methods can use and integrate together to create a new threat for our job. My job is in danger, your job is in danger, and all others' job in danger. No government can regulate AI. This is fact. We can only talk and we can create some guiding principles and rules, but no government can regulate AI at this point of time. There are few reasons. One of them is that most of the regulators and most of the most of the companies who are working in this area are actually in AI supremacy race. So if you are in race, then you you don't want to become a loser. So this is a matter of race, and all big tech companies and all big I can say that big countries like China, US, and Russia are in this race. Not only with the AI, like other advanced scientific technologies. So we are in actually race. So no regulation will work. And in the age of such a cutthroat competition, the greed of human being will encourage to misuse these AI tools. So we are now going to create a god, kind of god, whose name is AI, and that will going to control our future and our destiny. So this is time to think and work in a synchronized manner to do something better, so we can shape this AI storm in a right direction.
Thanks,
This is-
Abhishek. Actually, Abhishek, I'll just add one thing to you. While you have said that it cannot be regulated and there's kind of God, that's the conversation that's going to sentient robotics or sentient AI. That's for a different day. AJ is also coming in, artificial general intelligence.
Yes,
But,
I know.
but I again want to reiterate my earlier question, and maybe Abhijit, you can shed some light here, that while everyone is speaking on the value that it is bringing to the table and the progress is happening, I see hesitancy from the adopters side. Though Abhishek remarked that it's the human greed or it's the cutthroat competition that organizations have to go, the stakeholders. I'll give another example. Yesterday we had a demo of a AI tool, which is a mobile app which can analyze grain health on the fly, and it is being sold to the different agri markets, FPOs, that they can just scan the grains and they can tell it whether it is good, bad, or ugly. On that's a scale that they're using, so that the supply chain is put. And I see the hesitancy not from the government side, they're pushing it, not from the stakeholders on the buyer side. I see it from the farmers side, from the FPO side. So there's a dichotomy here. While where is the adoption leading, and why aren't we taking the right AI tools, for example, the good ones, or the purpose-driven innovation or the tech for good that we were discussing so long ago? Yeah, Vijay.
Okay. No, Abhishek, I think very well stated. And I have a feeling that, there are some very inherent problems also that we are seeing when it comes to adoption of AI at various levels. I'll give you an example. We were talking to somebody very senior at SBI Life, and this is one of the largest insurance companies in India. And we were talking to the president there, and we had a chat. And what he told me is that they've got a data scientist team of 7-8 people. They've got an AI ML team, and they've got everything else. So there's 30-40% of the budget is going in kind of keeping those guys on board. The larger challenge is that over the years, for last, I don't know, more than 100 years now, they have collected so many policies and so much data, and all of that data is unstructured, right? If you want to run anything, so the basic problem that you have with large part of these corporates is that a lot of that is still a legacy content, still a legacy data, and still a legacy thing. The challenge with that, you need a million, a few million, a billion records to get something more intelligent working out of it. So all these startups are there who are bringing in new idea. I can read these retinas and tell you whether you have pneumonia. I can tell you this, and I can look at your face and recognize. All this is an algorithm. It is not something which is being learned. It is not something which will be accurate. It is something which is a notion which has to become a product, right? It is a vaporware right now, and they have to build.
And here, Abhijit, just for the sake of Abhishek, you remember we were approached by an Israel app 2 years ago that used AI to scan the paintings drawn by young children to and give us the analysis whether they have been sexually abused or not. So and because once you don't have access to data, what exactly what Abhijit is saying, the algorithm might be right, the intent is right, the let's say the overall software design and the sample data might have been right, bang on. But for a country like India to come to a conclusion or to conclude some conclusive argument would take something really, really, really big more. Yeah, Abhijit, you can continue. I just wanted to butt in here that this is something that I caught on with what you said.
Right. So I think, no, I very well understand what you're saying, Aman, and that's exactly what is the problem, because you have these organizations who have built a very interesting product. And I've got a friend of mine who's worked out with Hopkins Medical Institute, and they have taken with some academic work, and they can scan a newborn baby, and they can tell you whether the child is having jaundice or not. But and it's working very well because they had the data and they were able to structure it, and they are getting very good results. But I'm saying that that is not the case most of the time. The bigger challenge here is that you see, I'll tell you, there are three things. One is political will. Second is the way this whole diplomacy around or bureaucracy around AI is working. Third is the way the funds are flowing. There are a lot of funds, and the second thing is the way this whole narrative is being built. So a very large problem I feel is overhyped projects and overhyped AI ideas, which just got funded and which were more of a bureaucracy or a political will story. That is one of the things. Now, because of which the real investors and the real folks are having unrealistic expectations. Until unless there is more money being properly projected in the AI space, you will not get real, AI for purpose or good AI, and all of that would not come out of it until unless you are really putting the money in startup innovation and in research, because the investors are looking at 10x, 5x, right? You are trying to create a picture which doesn't exist. You are trying to showcase the North Star, which is being politically, moved out, whatever is the reason. So in this scenario, especially in India, I'm talking very much in things that I'm aware of, and I don't want to bring all the names in front of you, but it is very, very difficult for the system to grow in the right way. And on top of this is the regulators' mindset, whether it is IRDA, whether it is SEBI, or whether it is the guys who are in controlling mutual funds, or all of these financial regulators, their mindset and the way they operate, and the way the government wants to do, and the way they want to operate, and all of this is very, very disconnected. And I'm telling you, they are more than 10 to 20 years back from the real work. Your people are using so much of chat GPT that their personal life is all out. Your employer data is all out. Your everything is out in the open, and you feel that chat GPT is not a cybersecurity threat, but it pretty much is hurting a lot of people in different ways. So I'm saying that the biggest challenge is right regulation and right flow of funds in right projects, which is what I feel trusted AI and Pamela is here, and I feel that this kind of an initiative is what is needed at a very, very large level, at a global level, whether it is small country, whether it is Indonesia, Taiwan, they're growing at a great speed, or it is India, or it is US, or some other countries. I think everywhere dynamics are changing, and you need a very, very strong anchor and a very, very strong push, something like what Pamela is doing, and something like even Maya has got some ideas on the way the policies are working out. So I think that's what I feel about the whole thing.
Thanks, Abhijit. I think most of us agree that education, awareness, this is the main thing. Pamela, you want to say something? Sorry, I cut you short.
No, I'm sorry. See, I just want to add that yes, I know AI has been thought of as a kind of a tool for global supremacy, right? I did a risk management seminar on this 3 years ago. China has clearly come out. I mean, there are countries, nation states clearly stating that this is our way of getting ahead. But the reality is, if we don't take this, and if you see the I in trusted AI is the DNA strand, it goes to show that, if we don't look at this systemically of building a trustworthy AI, that could be secure, it could be privacy, it could mean 8 things, as I mentioned. But if we don't do it at a foundation, it will actually do us more harm than good. And then it will be that global supremacy is going to be purely aspirational, because it's not going to be reality if these tools don't deliver what they are intended to deliver. So the risk-based approach, in my view, is really the way for a risk-based and a holistic view. So we can't rely on regulations as innovators, right? If we are innovating in the space, we can't rely on regulators to hold us to a standard. We got to hold, the companies have to be aware what they're building, what they're adopting, even if it's ChatGPT, to your point earlier, that yes, you could be putting your intellectual property out there. So if we don't do this right, we could really be giving the farm away instead of getting the intended gains and outcomes. So I'm not hearing an echo, so I'll stop talking. But I don't think regulations by themselves are the answer. So we need a holistic approach, in my view, which is build the innovation and everything, the profits will follow if we build it with a risk management framework in mind. So NIST has created an AI RMF. ISO 42001 is out, right? There is really, and we've always had ISO standards, quality standards, and the 9001s, etc. If we take a pragmatic, a structured view of that, what is that PDCA cycle, right? Those are the governance frameworks that we need, and they don't have to be esoteric. In other words, we've done this, right? But we cannot think of technology of AI as just another technology. This is a whole new world which will need what we already know, and leveraging what we know, and taking a risk-based approach to what are we building, what do we use it for, and can there be what are the risks that can come from it? Can there be bias, right? Can this be excluding somebody from using this service, for example? That would be example of bias, for example, right? It all comes down to the use case. But to take that cybersecurity example further, right? Earlier, cyber wars were fought between nation states, right? It was nation to nation, country to country. But with the use of the internet and the pervasiveness of technology, such as IoT, right? Cyber war is at everybody's endpoint right now. If you have the motivation and the definitely have the resources for nation states, for example, you don't have to just go after a country, you're right, at a nation state level. You can attack at a consumer level, at a citizen level. You can attack anyone, because as the I think as the technology has improved, the surface area has gotten, that penetration has gotten to such a point that, you just need a smartphone. You can be, there are so many attack surfaces now, threat surfaces. These are all what we can do good with it, and what can also be a problem. So it's really a use case based analysis of, for a company, for an organization, for a society, of what do we want? Is this who we are? And what can we take as a risk, right? Because I'm talking very broadly, so I'm kind of hesitating. But if maybe next time we talk, we can take some specific examples that are, easier to kind of create that oversight and view around. But I would just say that I agree. It's not going to be, we cannot wait for regulations. And regulations, if they are too onerous, are going to inhibit innovation and progress. So we don't want that either, right? We've got to be careful what we're wishing for. But if we can take a risk-based approach at a regulatory space like the EU AI Act, I actually am a big proponent of what the approach is, which is some applications are clearly prohibited, right? You cannot do social scoring. You cannot do certain kind of applications. These should not be developed. But as in the case of what we've seen with the deepfakes, there is the good use cases. I've seen a Diwali message from Shah Rukh Khan, messaging going on with deepfakes, which was fantastic. Which was I don't know if you guys saw that. It was a Nestle-based ad for Diwali, which was enabling local businesses to use, where he was saying that use XYZ's mithai wala for this Diwali, right? Personalizing it for the context that, with by the local zip code, for example. So that's a good use case. But then there's also the one that we've seen with Taylor Swift. And this is not somebody, just a particular, um, it's not a problem related only to a particular gender or a particular locality. This is everybody's problem. And again, I've been in this space for a long time, and I wrote a blog on this 3 years ago, saying the problem with deepfakes is if they have the ability to read our very perception, and perception is reality, as we know, right? So if we are, if what we read and what we see, that's what influences our thought process. It that is a reality, and it can also have negative. You saw the stock market go down when there was a fake image of Pentagon getting attacked, posted last year. It took a dip for maybe 2 seconds, but then they realized it was a deepfake, and then it went back. But that's the power of the technology right now. None of this is new, but it's the scale and the velocity that we can do these kind of attacks and communication. That's what's changed with AI. So I think, just to conclude, it is regulations, yes, regulations at a high level, but there's also people process technology, right? That is extremely important for moving forward with AI.
Thanks, Pamela. Thanks, Pamela. You've given us a lot of insights. Good to see you join, Manpreet. Can we see you? Hello, Manpreet. Okay. So, Harmeet, since we come to the last leg, you heard
He's
Pamela speak.
yeah,
So what are your thoughts
yes,
now, and how to?
very interesting discussion. Yeah, see, the foremost and the very important thing which I think what we lack here is a trusted ethical framework for the AI, vertical. So which needs to be developed at a very good pace now. With, as Sir said, the government has to come in and do that stuff in a big way. The second, I find there are, the laws, the cyber laws, and things need to be very, very strong on the, because I've seen as AI can be a very important and good thing for the humankind, wherein I have seen there are a lot of, frauds and things happening and disturbing people's life. So those needs to be taken care in a very careful and a very stronger way by the authorities itself. And I stand with my thoughts, wherein the awareness and the education is the most important thing which needs to be developed on the ground level, wherein starting from right from the schools, from the universities level, the education and awareness has to be built on, which wherein as we initiated yesterday, the AI experience centers, which is going to be a great help to the citizens, to the children, to the teachers, the trainers, to their parents. So we will start from there on. So this is what I think it is, three major points which needs to be covered up.
Thanks, Harmeet. I think the AI experience centers is a good bet, and we should all debate and take it forward. Hi, Manpreet. Thanks for joining. Manpreet, we've been discussing while we were waiting for you. We all have discussed the impact that AI has brought to the workplace. And we have Pamela with us, Dipti Vilasji, who's a former bureaucrat, Abhijit, Abhishek, Harmeet. The sense that I've got is that there has to be a self-regulation of sorts for tech for good and AI which is purpose-driven. We cannot rely on government to have regulations and, as Pamela was saying earlier, hold us to standards. There has to be a method to this madness, let's put it that way. So, in your experience, what are your thoughts on AI and its impact on the workplace? Do you find it aiding and abetting the efficiencies and innovation, or it's treading the thin line that we say it's entering the gray area and a lot of trust deficit is being created? Over to you, Anprit.
Thank you so much, Amanji. Sorry, I had to join late because I was traveling.
Worries.
Is audio clear?
We lost you, Manpreet. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Is my
Now we
sound
can
clear?
hear. Yes, yes. Now we can hear you.
Okay, so sorry, I'm traveling, so maybe the sound issue and videos issue. So, interesting why I wanted to join, because just yesterday there was an experience on AI, and there was a chat bot that somebody put up on Twitter, which was supposed to be like a help center of a sort of a company. And then he was trying to see, okay, he had a problem, he put it across, and then he realized that the chatbot is actually connected to ChatGPT kind of a background. And then he started abusing the company, and the chat GPT or the interface of the AI started actually abusing the company it was supposed to be a respondent for. And the entire conversation was put up online. And it was very interesting what can happen if it is uncontrolled or if there's no human interaction or intervention. So, of course, AI does give certain insights, but there has to be some kind of a regulation.
Thanks, Manpreet. And that is what we all agree today. And it has been a wonderful discussion. Sir, I will now request you to summarize and conclude the meeting. You heard everyone speak, everyone has given their insights. We had persons joining us from different parts of the globe as well. So, what are your concluding remarks, sir? You're muted, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Now, loud and clear.
I think the upshot of the discussions we had right now makes it very clear that the juggernaut which cannot be stopped. It is bound to come into our lives. Corporates and individuals are dealing with it in their own ways, but ultimately, I think it is the law of the strongest that is going to prevail. The government like to have their own discussion. How come the USA can make automatic AI powered defense equipment, and why can't it be used for the climate change? I mean, it's possible for even the governments to think about what they are doing, because and it's going to become the law of the strongest. The stronger government, the stronger society, the stronger company, they are going to monopolize this new technique in one way or the other for their own aggrandizement, and therefore there is a need of regulation. And I think there can only be international laws that will be developed at the international level, which has not happened till now. Nor any country has formulated any formal. We have just heard of Singapore, and I think they have made some headway. But I think no government has been able to set up a set of rules and regulations for its use. I think as of now, it is a law of the strongest. The stronger guy has the intelligence, has the resources to use it for its purpose. And until and unless the need for regulation is felt, which has not been felt in that agency so far, will still be stumbling and trying to overcome the ill effects of this new technology. Yeah, I think that's where it stands now. Yeah.
Thanks, sir. I think this has been quite a
I have
yes,
one,
yes, please. Yes, Abhishek.
I have one point over this regulation part. Who will regulate these deep fakes? Who will regulate these media propagandas? Who will regulate these automated cyber attacks? Who will regulate these malware attacks? Who will regulate these AI controlled drones? Who will regulate these AI manufactured misinformation and disinformation? So these are questions, and only answer is nobody, no government can regulate this type of AI manufactured problems. Nobody. We can aware, we can train people, but end of the day, the power will goes to goons. This is my
That's very strong words, very strong words, but I'll just let it die there because we've had a long 1.5 hour discussion today. Let's keep something for the next discussion. What we all agree is that, as Harmeet said, all of us will get together and start defining and refining some sort of AI experience centers that we can take to the globe. And so, with your permission, it can also become a white paper and for the policy makers, and that we are going to draft very soon. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks, Manpreet. Sorry we could not spend more time with you, but we'll see more of you in the future, right?
Thanks,
Thanks,
Manpreet.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Amanji.
Thanks, Ji.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Abhijit. Thanks,
Thank you,
Abhijit.
sir.
Thank you all.